Oh! Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, if you're like, I can't be bothered, mate. Shit!
Oh! Drive it!
I see him.
Some of the most disturbing encounters happen when you realize you are completely alone. From glowing red eyes silently watching a stranded driver from the middle of the forest, to human-like whistles circling a camper's tent deep in the freezing mountains. Sometimes, the deeper you go into the wilderness, the less empty it feels. So, if this happened to you, would you stay or leave immediately? Hayes is someone who truly enjoys spending time outdoors. He runs a channel called Hayes Outdoors and frequently uploads videos from his camping trips, exploring mountains, forests, and other difficult-to-reach locations. Over the years, he has built a loyal audience, and watching his content can genuinely teach you a lot about surviving and thriving in the wilderness. But this specific video uploaded on March 24th, 2026 stands out, because it shows how quickly things can go wrong, even for someone with experience. The video begins on a fairly calm note. He is simply sitting there reading comments from his audience, completely relaxed, with no idea what is about to happen next.
What's the best method of kicking your ass to actually get out? I've never regretted going camping once, but for some reason really have to drag myself out. I've no idea why. Because it's easier to stay in. Everything's designed to keep you in. Easy food, easy life, and that's how they want it, mate. They want you knackered, and they want you staying in and not doing anything. And what you've got to do, mate, is prove them wrong. Stick it to yourself as well, because no one deserves to kick your ass as much as you do.
But while he continued focusing on those comments, his attention drifted away from his immediate surroundings. That short lapse in concentration led directly to an accident, one that could have ended much, much worse.
You know, if you're like, I can't be bothered, mate. Shit! Oh my God, I think I've broke my arm. Oh my God, I think I've broke my arm. Oh my God. Oh, ow, ow, ow. Where's my camera gone? Oh no, where's the mic? Mic's still there, you can hear me. Mate, I think I've broke my arm, and I was lucky that I didn't land on my head then. I could have been dead. Mate, I've just fallen down that cliff and landed there. My arm is haggard and I've lost my camera. So I can't see it. Don't know if it's landed in water and gone off Ended Waterfall, or whether it's on there somewhere on that cliff as I fell down. That was violent, that was violent. I don't know, my elbow feels absolutely knackered, mate. It's all gone tingly. If I'd have come down there at a different angle, mate, I would have been dead. And as I was falling, I didn't even know whether I was going down big bit.
Thankfully, he came away from it okay and did not actually break his arm. But honestly, the situation had every reason to turn serious very quickly. If he had landed on his head, the outcome could have been fatal. And considering that he ended up in the water, any injury severe enough to limit his movement could have resulted in drowning right there on the spot. It is a clear reminder of how one brief moment of distraction outdoors can spiral into something life-threatening. 1 second, everything feels normal, and the next you are dealing with something you may not survive. It was not even a major fall, and that is honestly the most unsettling part. Something that small can become deadly instantly if you land the wrong way. Experienced people can lose focus without realizing it. So, stay alert out there. No matter how much experience you have, nature has a way of catching you off guard when you least expect it. Experience does not make you immune, it only means you have been lucky more times than most. What do you think really keeps people alert when they are out there alone? The video was uploaded to an Instagram account called PashaBrill9. According to Pasha, everything began with a simple, almost embarrassing mistake. He was driving through a wooded area when his tire hit a sharp branch lying in the road. The result was a flat tire and no way to continue stranded on a completely empty road surrounded by trees. He began recording everything on his phone with additional footage later taken from his dash cam. At first, his attitude was fairly lighthearted, almost joking about the situation. No spare tire, no cell service, no other people anywhere nearby, only the trees and the daylight slowly disappearing around him. After some time, he managed to catch a weak signal and contacted a friend.
Колесо спущено. За час, который я здесь нахожусь, ни одна машина не проехала. Единственное, что меняется в этой ситуации, то, что начинает темнеть.
The friend agreed to come help, but the drive was approximately 4 hours away. That is when the footage begins to change. The earlier clips are fairly uneventful. He is simply passing time speaking to the camera and walking around the vehicle. But once the forest became completely dark, the atmosphere shifted. Something was moving in the bushes.
Что это за херня была?
At first, it seemed like a normal animal, something running across the road that he assumed was probably a dog or local wildlife. Then he noticed the eyes bright red, reflecting through the darkness and staring directly back at him. The figure stopped in the middle of the road, faced him directly, then vanished into another section of the forest. He froze. The creature was moving on all fours, but the proportions looked wrong. The body dark and almost bare, and the way it moved did not resemble anything familiar. Instead of remaining near the car and waiting for his friend, he made a decision he would later regret. He followed it into the forest.
Работает.
Through the trees, those same red eyes continued appearing, always at a distance, always retreating, but never fully disappearing. At one point, the creature moved behind a tree and simply was not there anymore, as if it had climbed upward or vanished completely into the darkness. Afterward, all he could do was replay the footage and try to understand what he had actually seen. The simplest explanation is a wild animal with eyes reflecting the light in an unusual way. But other theories circulating online are far darker: the chupacabra, the rake skinwalkers. Sometimes there is a completely normal explanation, and sometimes the footage simply does not support one. Would you have stayed in the car or followed it? On February 15, 2025, the YouTube channel Carly HD uploaded a video that started like a completely normal vlog, but gradually became something neither of them expected. The channel usually focuses on lighthearted and occasionally unsettling content, but this video felt different. In the footage, Carly and her mother walked into the wooded area behind their home to investigate what had been attacking their ducks. Several of the birds had already been killed during the previous few days. As they moved down a narrow trail, the mood remained relaxed. They talked about the ducks, laughed together, and pointed out areas where their security cameras had captured movement after dark. But the deeper they went into the woods, the more certain details began feeling wrong. Carly mentioned that the last time she had gone back there, she had noticed what looked like doll heads placed among the trees. At the time, it seemed like a strange coincidence, but standing there again, the entire area carried a different atmosphere. Then they noticed something lying on the ground that immediately made both of them stop. As they moved closer, it became obvious it was not an animal.
But this is weird. Okay, so how many trees are down?
Like 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's creepy. Yeah.
It was a small doll head, partially buried beneath dead leaves. They tried to brush it off and keep the mood light, but as they continued farther into the woods, the surroundings kept becoming stranger. Nearby trees were bent and twisted in ways that were difficult to explain naturally, which only increased the uneasiness. Then, Carly noticed something else on the ground that she was certain had not been there only moments earlier.
Is that a rat? Did the raccoon kill a rat?
What is that?
I don't know. I don't want to touch it. Oh!
Drop it!
What?
Drop that.
A second doll appeared, and the way it was positioned made it feel less like something that had ended up there accidentally. The atmosphere changed. They debated whether to pick it up or leave it alone, and it became increasingly obvious that neither of them felt comfortable remaining there any longer. But the dolls ended up not being the most unsettling thing they discovered.
Anyways, you said this looks like an arrow.
Yeah.
Carly! We're not alone here. Focus, girl. You're too focused on that tree. What is this? Where did that come from? That wasn't there before. Did the doll do this? We got rid of all the dolls.
No, the other doll.
Well, the ones over here?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll leave it over here.
Mom, it's gonna be possessed and haunted. We're gonna leave it right here. Drop it.
Okay.
Drop it.
I will.
As they turned around to head back, they came across one final detail that stopped them completely. Spread across the ground were bright red feathers.
Oh no, something. Do you see what I see?
No.
Do you see all those red feathers? Oh, there's a bird. Something died here. All this weirdness. Okay, we are out up here. Looks like a little cardinal.
Oh.
What?
I think there's blood down there.
What the heck is going on? Why are all these tree branches all weird like this and bent? Was a bird sacrificed to the evil dolls? Okay, this is way too creepy. Okay. You stay here, and we're going.
Scattered in a pattern suggesting something had recently been killed there. That was enough. They decided not to continue any farther into the woods. But even after leaving the area, the questions remained whether everything they had found was simply a strange series of coincidences, or whether someone had intentionally placed it all there. If you had been the one walking through those woods, would you have continued forward, or turned back the moment you saw the first doll? A routine search inside a quiet forest park became something far more disturbing than anyone expected. Footage uploaded on May 9th, 2025 by the YouTube channel Johnny Paranormal has since left viewers questioning what may truly be hidden out there. In this particular video, the explorer Johnny was walking through a section of forest he had visited many times before. He moved slowly, scanning the ground and nearby trees, the same way he always did while checking the park for anything unusual. While continuing along the trail, he suddenly stopped. Something on the ground had caught his attention.
How do I touch this being respectful? I don't want to use my foot. That is a skull.
At first, it appeared to be a pale object, partially covered by leaves. The explorer carefully stepped closer, aiming the camera toward it while trying to understand exactly what he was looking at. For a brief second, he hesitated, but then realization quickly set in. The object resting on the forest floor was a skull. The skull was small and heavily worn, suggesting it had remained in the woods for a very long time. Moss and dirt surrounded it, blending it naturally into the forest floor so well that someone could easily have walked past it without ever noticing. What made the discovery even more unsettling was the fact that he had searched this exact area before. He had actually passed through the same location multiple times during earlier explorations, yet somehow never noticed the skull until that moment. That realization appeared to affect him immediately. The explorer then began looking around the surrounding area, scanning the ground and nearby branches for anything else that could provide answers.
So basically, found a body within 2 hours. That's a very old body. So not even body, it's just the head. Rest in peace.
During previous searches, he had discovered ropes or markings attached to trees, signs suggesting someone may have been in distress at some point. But in this situation, there was nothing clearly connecting the skull to any specific event. He paused while considering how long the remains may have been there. Based on the condition of the skull, it seemed likely the person had been in the forest for a long time. He even mentioned that it could belong to a woman, though there was no way to know for certain. For a channel recognized for exploring strange and eerie places, this moment stood out for a completely different reason. There were no mysterious noises, no paranormal encounters, only the quiet discovery of human remains in a place where someone's story had seemingly been forgotten entirely. Sometimes the truth is not hidden by anything mysterious, only overlooked with time, so how many things like this are still out there waiting to be discovered? It began with one dog, then another, until suddenly he realized he was entirely surrounded. Every step he made only caused them to close in, further turning it into a moment he would never forget. In a video uploaded on March 11th, 2026, the creator behind the YouTube channel, Alexander Campbell, recorded one of his travels through the mountains of northern Turkey as part of his mission to walk around the world. That day, Alexander was journeying from the city of Niksar, and as he climbed deeper into the mountains, he encountered a combination of curious animals and isolated villages. But as darkness slowly approached, strange noises began coming from the bushes surrounding him.
Something in those bushes for sure. I've heard some weird noises. Like, maybe it's pigs. It's gotta be a pig. Can you hear him? I see him. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my god, there's like hundreds of them. That was crazy. There must have been like a good 20 or 30 of them. They all ran away, but I can still hear some of them rustling around.
At first, he could not tell what he was hearing, but not long after a large group of wild boars suddenly burst out from the forest. It was an intense moment, but the real danger had still not appeared. The next day, while Alexander continued traveling through remote villages, he encountered something local residents frequently warned travelers about: shepherd dogs. Some wagged their tails while others quietly watched him walk past.
It looks empty. I take it back. We got 2 doggies coming. They're very cute. Hey guys, how you doing? Oh, you're gorgeous, aren't you? Hello. Hello. Oh, there's even more of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But eventually, the situation changed completely when he passed through another village. Without any warning, several large dogs suddenly began approaching him aggressively. Within seconds, more dogs appeared from multiple directions until he was completely surrounded. The animals barked loudly and moved closer, forcing him backward.
Buddy.
Buddy. Buddy. Buddy. Buddy. Help, 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 help. Help. Guys, help. Help. Help.
For almost 10 minutes, he remained trapped in place. Every time he attempted to move, the dogs rushed toward him again. Using his hiking pole, he tried keeping them at a distance, but the animals bit the pole and attempted to yank it away from him.
Help! Help!
The situation became extremely intense as he shouted for help, uncertain whether anyone nearby could hear him. Eventually, the shepherd responsible for the dogs arrived. The moment the shepherd appeared, the entire pack immediately backed away, retreating as though a switch had been flipped, and Alexander was finally out of danger.
Oh man, they just wouldn't leave me alone. And then finally the shepherd came. I was like calling out help. Oh man, it was horrible. I thought I was gone for. Eventually the shepherd came, and as soon as he arrived, they backed off immediately.
Reflecting on the experience afterward, Alexander admitted the encounter had deeply shaken him. Travelers in those mountains are normally warned about wolves and bears, but for him the real threat came from animals most people would never think twice about. Sometimes the greatest danger is not what you expect, and it appears when you are already alone, so would you have known what to do in that moment? The next video comes from the Haggard Project, a US-based outdoor channel centered around solo camping and survival-style trips in isolated environments. It is February 19th, 2026, in a remote hillside area in the United States. He arrives during an intense winter storm. Wind and rain immediately begin affecting the setup. The terrain is completely exposed, offering no protection from the weather, and visibility quickly becomes limited. He attempts to install a solar-powered night vision camera system, but the conditions interfere with the process. Moisture, heavy wind, and weak signal all affect the system's reliability. With no mobile service and unstable equipment, awareness becomes restricted before the night has even started.
Hope that's on the inside or the outside, but that's a handprint. And the wind has picked up, so I'm gonna have to do emergency recon. Wind is getting really bad up here, so you can see it's knocked over my stuff, so I'm gonna pack it in. I'm just gonna focus on driving out of here.
Conditions continue getting worse as strong gusts begin knocking over equipment, forcing him to focus on safety instead of monitoring. He eventually retreats from the hillside, leaving the camera system behind and effectively losing visibility of the area. At that point, he is no longer observing the environment, only reacting to it. This situation is shaped by a gradual loss of control. The environment limits visibility, interferes with equipment, and reduces awareness step by step. The handprint stands out, but it is never investigated or confirmed. Instead, it becomes part of a much larger problem, being unable to fully monitor what is happening around you. And in conditions like these, where the weather overrides preparation, that lack of visibility becomes the greatest risk. Sometimes the real danger is not what may be out there, but what you are no longer able to see, so would you stay and risk it or leave before the situation becomes worse? The video comes from A New Life in the Van, a UK-based van life channel documenting travel throughout Europe with a focus on practical experiences and the everyday realities of living on the road. It is November 25th, 2024 in La Linea near the border with Gibraltar, Spain. The couple finishes their stay at a marina campsite. They complete routine tasks, emptying waste, refilling water, and preparing the van before continuing their journey. The environment is open and calm with clear visibility and an organized setting. However, attention soon shifts toward the upcoming border crossing.
See that guy that literally just came in front of our car? That happens very often. So don't get scammed by this kind of thing. He'll probably try and tell you that you can't go in. He'll try and give you some, try and tell you you've got to pay some money. But you don't have to pay these people anything. They're not official. Just drive straight past. Don't pull your windows down, nothing. Just keep going. We don't need to go through customs. We haven't got anything to declare. So what happens is you go through the Spanish aduana, which is the Spanish customs. You're going into the Gibraltar area. So you're going to show your passport twice. You'll cross through here and you'll go into there, into the Gibraltar customs area, which will take you out down there, straight down towards Casemates and the centre of Gibraltar.
Where unfamiliar procedures introduce a different kind of uncertainty. They move through the crossing. The process itself is straightforward. Once inside the official area, there are passport checks, controlled entry points, and visible structure. The difference between unofficial interaction and formal procedure quickly becomes noticeable. This moment is not centered around danger, it is centered around awareness. Nothing escalates and no one is harmed, but the attempt is still there. And when traveling through unfamiliar locations, especially near border areas, uncertainty can sometimes be used to create pressure. In this situation, the outcome comes down to one simple choice, ignoring it and continuing forward. And sometimes that alone is enough to avoid a situation completely. We appreciate you for watching. If these unsettling encounters gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss the next upload. There is always another mystery waiting just around the corner. Sometimes the danger is not immediately obvious, but it appears in small moments like this. So would you recognize it or stop without understanding why? On the eve of a trip to Ireland, a Filipino urban explorer left his responsibilities behind and drove alone into the freezing Canadian Appalachians. This footage comes from the channel Paranormal Discovery, uploaded on February 26, 2026. He was returning to the Deadlands, a place where he and his fiancée had previously experienced something that seemed to manifest physically.
I am out here in the Deadlands again. Matter of fact, in the exact same spot as the video before this. We had our tent out here, literally right here. I don't know if I could even take them. Anyways, I'm back here solo running this tonight. I'm not gonna do anything too extraordinary tonight. So yeah, Chelsea and I discovered this side of the Deadlands, which last time we actually thought I just heard some. We actually are convinced that we ran into something like an entity.
He returns to the exact same location as before, where their tent had once been set up with remnants still remaining in the ground because of the cold. This time, he is alone, only intending a simple follow-up visit rather than anything extreme. Even so, the memory of what happened there previously remains vivid, especially the belief that they had encountered some type of entity in that area. With no cell service and temperatures continuing to drop, he sets up camp by himself. Being alone changes everything. The same forest now feels unfamiliar and hostile.
Yeah, the vibes are completely different here when you're alone. Like they know you're here, and it's kind of ominous right now. It just feels ominous and like almost stupid to be out here alone. Got all the wood in there. Woo! Yeah! It's nippy out tonight. Okay, what was that? What's there? All ready, dude. All freaking ready.
As if the environment itself is aware of his presence. A heavy, difficult-to-explain pressure begins building, creating a constant sense of unease as he prepares his campsite and fire. As night settles over the area, the atmosphere becomes increasingly oppressive. The forest feels tighter, almost closing in around him. When he activates a spirit communication device, responses arrive immediately. The words coming through suggest fear.
Let's throw on some spirit talker. As you can tell, I get really, really excited for food. Whew, that is heaping now.
Wilson, We have eyes on you.
Whoa, we have eyes on you. Shit. Can you tell me who this is? Or what you are? Are you a cryptid being? Or are you indigenous perhaps? Or...
Burned.
Burned! Burned! What did we get? The past 2 videos, burned. This is crazy. There has to have been a fire.
She scares me.
Whoa.
Her.
She scares me, her. Who are you talking about? Damn.
Reference something burned and point toward a lingering presence connected to a past event. Suddenly, the tension breaks. A clear, human-like whistle cuts through the darkness. The sound does not remain in one location. Instead, it moves, circling him from different directions.
What the hell? That was like a whistle. Like whistling. Someone's legit whistling. What the hell? I don't get a good vibe anymore. I feel like I'm just like in a trap right now. Oh, what the whoa, whoa, whoa. What the fuck? Whoa! Whoa, whoa! Who's there? Circling me. It's in all different directions. What the is going on? Who's there? Show yourself! What are you?
The feeling shifts from uneasy to dangerous, as if he has stepped into something he cannot see, but that is already surrounding him. Trying to understand what is happening, he scans the area with his light, but nothing appears. The feeling of being watched intensifies. As he checks the perimeter, a loud crash erupts back at his campsite. Something is moving through his gear.
Oh! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, oh, shit. No, wait. That came from the camp. Whoa, whoa, whoa! That came from the camp. What the fuck? Something over here? What the f? This is fucked up. What is this? What are you? I am speechless right now. What the fuck is going on? Nothing. Literally.
Yet, when he rushes back, there is nothing there. No person, no animal, nothing visible at all. The experience begins taking a toll on him. His thoughts feel clouded, and the pressure returns stronger than before, affecting both his concentration and his sense of control. The situation no longer feels safe. The environment, the sounds, and the unseen presence all combine into something overwhelming. Realizing he is no longer welcome, he decides to leave. The exploration ends abruptly as he retreats from the mountains, taking his footage with him, but losing any sense of calm he had before arriving. In places like this, isolation and memory can combine in ways that make everything feel more real than it may actually be. But when sounds move, objects shift, and reactions feel physical, it leaves one simple question: was this only the mind under pressure, or was something actually there forcing him away? The next video comes from Backcountry Benny, a US-based bushcraft channel focused on solo wilderness camping and survival skills. It is June 17, 2025, in a remote wooded area in the United States. Benny enters the forest without a specific plan. The terrain is thick with limited visibility and no established campsite. He begins scouting early, searching for a balance between cover flat ground and distance from obvious wildlife paths. The feeling of isolation is immediate.
And I noticed that there was bear dung here. There aren't many bears in this area, so it's pretty cool that they're here. I'm gonna get away from here. I don't stand a chance against a bear, so I'm just gonna camp far enough away.
He notices large animal droppings along a game trail. The size suggests a larger animal, possibly deer, elk, or bear. The important detail is the location directly on an active trail. Rather than continuing along it, he moves away. This is a preventative choice, lowering the chance of encountering wildlife later.
All right, guys, this is the spot. It's shaded, it's cool. I'm gonna get camp set up real quick. Might relax a little bit, so. Dang, that thing's like 60 pounds. Whew. Okay, so I got a little bit of area cleared out, but it's kind of soaked, so I'm gonna let it dry out for a little bit. So I'm gonna go find some rocks down at the creek so I can build a fire pit. Yeah, that's it. Go grab some rocks. I kind of want to camp here, but there are a lot of bugs, and there's also a lot of animal trails, and it's not really worth it. So I'm gonna haul them back to camp and then get a fire pit set up. Okay, so I didn't really think this through, but I need to actually build my shelter first so I know where to put the fire pit. So I'm gonna build my shelter before actually building the fire pit, but I got the rocks already, so it doesn't matter. But first,
He chooses a shaded area and starts setting up camp. The ground is partially cleared but still damp, so he gives it time to dry. He collects rocks from a nearby creek with the goal of building a fire pit. As he works, he rethinks the layout, deciding to build his shelter first so the fire pit can be positioned more effectively. The process continues with adjustments, including changing the shelter structure from an A-frame to a lean-to based on the conditions. The work is physically exhausting, and fatigue becomes noticeable as he continues alone.
going down, it's going to be probably dark here in 30 minutes, so hopefully tonight we don't have any issues with animals. The only one I'm really worried about tonight is the black bear. Again, I haven't seen him today, but if there's a bear close, I want nothing to do with it. Alright guys, it's about midnight, so I'm gonna hit the hay. It's about 50-ish degrees, so not too cold. I've got a great fire. I've got loads of firewood and a bunch of blankets. So yeah, that's all about I got for you. I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. Really did not sleep that well. I was sleeping on an angle too. Anyways, now that I'm awake, I am going to get out of here.
As evening approaches, daylight begins fading quickly. He remains aware of possible wildlife, especially black bears, even though none have been seen that day. By midnight, the conditions are manageable. The temperature remains moderate, the fire is stable, and enough firewood and blankets are prepared to maintain warmth through the night. Morning arrives without any major incidents. The campsite shows no direct signs of intrusion. Minor changes in the surroundings suggest natural movement, likely from small animals or environmental factors, but nothing comes near the shelter itself. The outcome reflects the earlier decisions made during scouting and setup. In environments like this, recognizing signs early and choosing the right location often prevents problems before they begin. When nothing happens, it usually means the choices made beforehand were effective. And that leads to a simple question: was this simply a quiet, controlled night in the wilderness, or did those early decisions prevent something that could have happened?
That's it for tonight. Which moment creeped you out the most? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story? Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.